Two things, Star Trek. The Lost Disco Pole. Ooh. Lower Decks Eve. Oh. And Section 31. Am I right? Today on episode 373. Can you believe it? Yeah. Of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and all things Trekland, including Trekland Treks, your home for a unique, customized away mission of your own, a lifetime experience. You'll never forget it. Just get in touch with me, LarryNemecek.com, because we're coming at you, as always, here on a Tuesday for some sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Trek, i.e. not the same o across the interwebs. Hey, it's finally feeling like a little more expectancy. I mean, in the States, there's a lot of expectancy going on, but here in Trek world, we've got Lower Decks debuting on the 24th, on this Thursday, with 2 episodes, big New York Comic-Con splash. I'm going to talk about that a little more than I normally would, because one of the things that happened this weekend, and thank you, John X, for noticing, validated what I've been suspecting all along if you are reading all your media out there. So we're going to get to that in a couple seconds. Meanwhile, and I have some unfinished business that I almost forgot about. Heavens to Betsy, I've gotten rusty on newsletters, and I took a poll 2 weeks ago. Hang on. I'm going to give you the results of my first poll all year. Kind of sad. But we're going to get back in the swing of that. And to talk about a thank you to everybody who made it to the open house a couple weeks ago. Had a fantastic time with the Hagemans. I mean, yeah, it's been 2 weeks. We're going to be posting that soon on the YouTube channel. So you want to make sure and like and subscribe. Ring the bell, do all the things, right? Hey, if you are watching us later on YouTube, that's awesome. Please keep the conversation going. Leave some comments of your own. I will get back into them. I will see them, and we can keep this going, kiddos. Maybe someday you can join us live on Tuesdays at 1-ish Pacific, 4-ish Eastern, and then 9-ish Central, 9-ish UK, and 10-ish Central Europe, to be sure. I love doing this time of day across Trekland. We even have a Portal 47 edition, just for the Europeans and midday Americans at this time of day, because I like being as global as we can. And if you were with us on open house night, I had a sample Ask Dr. Trek roundtable there. Since it was open house and it was open to the public, Portal, normally it's the subscription just for the members. We had my first, across any platform, any show, any channel, my first person from India chime in. And that was a thrill. You'll see that when we post those. So let me get to it today, because I realized, as I said, I almost forgot about this. And this was a great turnout. So out of my news list, which I've been deficient this year, but I did get the word out finally about open house this year. My business coaches would not be happy, but I did get that out. And we had a really healthy first poll all year, a really healthy response. I think it's about a 3.5% response rate, which is about typical for polls. The question was, and I've been wanting to ask this all year, so don't talk to me about it being a little late. It's never too late for Star Trek questions. The question was, now that Discovery is over, what do you think of the series as a whole? And I, had the options. Now, you have to limit it this way just so you have a format, right? Otherwise, you'd have 5,000 individual essay questions. You'd have to grade them all, and you'd be up way later than you mean to be. And we'd never make it in a short segment in a show like this. But I gave 6 options, which I think pretty much covered the gamut, okay? And here were the 6 options. I loved Disco from start to finish. It ended far stronger than it began. Actually, I enjoyed season 1 and 2 better than the other ones. I started to watch, but I gave up sometime in season 1 or 2. I have not watched it, but I intend to. And then the very diplomatic, I never plan to watch. With 3 ellipses there. I never plan to watch. Just factual, right? So I had those 6 answers. So here's how I'll go down the line, right?
The smallest chunk, 3.8%, said, I haven't watched it, but I intend to. And then the next one up in number 5 place was, and this is one you expect, I never plan to watch. Now, that was 5.8%, nearly 6. So again, this is a curated audience. This is my news list over all these years. This is my news list that chose to answer, open the email, and then do the poll. So, I mean, there's some self-selection here. But of those who chose to answer, and it was a very healthy return versus the last time I did this, I never planned to watch Discovery was actually at 5.8%. Now, then there was a 3-way tie for second. And one of those was, I started to watch, but I gave up in season 1 or season 2. Probably season 1. This is a 3-way tie with 19.2%, so nearly a fifth. So if you combine the I never want to watch it with the I started to and didn't end, that's about a fourth. A fourth of the list said that, of my list. Right out a fourth, actually. So, okay, does that mirror Trek fans overall? I'm curious how my mail list and then my responding mail list. I know we're also full of polls and surveys in this campaign season here in the States. I don't know what the margin of error is here, but that's interesting. So about a fourth say they didn't watch it, or they tried to start and they didn't. Now, of the rest, okay, 4% said they hadn't watched it, but they planned to. Okay, let them have their word. So the rest of that tie for number 2, 19.2%. One chunk said that they enjoyed season 1 and 2 better than the rest, 19.2%. And another evenly tied chunk, 19.2%, said, I love Disco from start to finish. So that's like another fifth. So we've basically had a fifth, and a say that. And then the number 1, by far, so 32.7%, basically a third, said it ended far stronger than it began. Barring a rewatch, that's yours truly. I just feel like they should have started in the future. I just think shoehorning in before, if they wanted to show off their visual effects chops and programmable matter, cool stuff. If they wanted to do all that, they should never have tried to play around with being a decade before Kirk and Spock. But we all know the interesting startup story of Disco, the birthing pangs, the turnover in staff. So there you go. So as of 3 weeks ago, that's what my mail list got back to me. Again, the first poll I've done this year on the first newsletter I've sent out this year. So if you're not on my newsletter, go over and get it. It's Larry@LarryNemecek.com. I try to let you know what's going on with Trekland. It's been an interesting year here on the personal front on our local starbase with the move and the settling in and still not having everything completely settled, although we're going to get there now that the wall's done. I just have to finish and paint it. And then I can finish putting up the shelves and we can finish unpacking the rest of the boxes. Then we'll get on with life, the universe, and everything, but including letting you know what's happening here because there's some fun stuff going on. But we've had a fun year. Cons, less cons than usual with the move and getting back to Con of Wrath and all of that. But the cruise is coming up. It's been fun to see folks at the big normal cons and some of the virtual events we've had like Open House. But there you go. The lowest faction here, 3.8% said no, but I intend to watch it. 5.8 said I never plan to watch. Then a tie at 19.2% apiece for I started to watch it, but I gave up early. I enjoyed early better than the rest, and I loved it start to finish. The biggest chunk, 32.7%, said it ended far stronger than it began, which is an overall positive and an overall I didn't, ditch and give up. So I wanted to get that out. I can't believe I let 2 weeks go by before I reported back to you all. That was the pre-open house Funzy survey. So if you're on my list and I'm letting you know what's going on, I always try to give up something, either some cool links or a survey then we can report on here, and or some cool things out of the archives. Sometimes maybe more than that. Now, thank God, after about a month or two of news drought, we actually had some news, since New York Comic Con gets looked at like in San Diego, not like Vegas anymore, but like the big megacons, Comic Cons. CBS looks at them, or Paramount looks at them as official hotbeds of publicity release. Yeah, we had that with New York Comic Con. And look, the New York Comic Con news has been all over the webs. I'm sure you know we got a date finally for the Section 31 movie, which is January 24th, not to be confused with October 24th for Lower Decks. So boom, there you go. I wondered if they would squeeze it in as a holiday-ish mood, but they're not. They're going to let the year finish and space it out because, there you go. What we're looking at right now, what's active Trek with the series going down. So yeah, that's Lower Decks last season, but it's in front of us. That's coming up, right? October. It'll last through December, 2 at once, and then the other 8 episodes weekly. Then you've got the Section 31 movie. Now we know January 24th. And so that leaves Strange News Season 3 floating for next year sometime that they've basically finished. Maybe that will be in second quarter. And then Academy's debut season, they're filming it now. So later 2025, does it bump over to 26? We'll see. But those are the 4 active in development, right? And Lower Decks goes away. That leaves us Section 31, Strange New, and Starfleet Academy. And part of this is not even on Star Trek, as we've talked many times here. It's on what's the world at large doing. I'm going to try to dive into that a little bit if we don't get sidelined totally by the week-to-week of Lower Decks. Although really, Lower Decks, my thoughts on each Lower Decks episode, of course, you can get at Dr. Trek's Second Opinion, right? Not a hot take, not a quick take, but a second opinion from Dr. Trek. Letting the dust settle, just 2 or 3 days. I just love all the first Thursday at 6 a.m. people, because I like my own reactions, and then I like to react to the reactions sometimes. So hopefully by Saturday, you'll be getting not 1, but 2 of those first 2 episodes down by Second Opinion. That's happening. But yeah, I really need to look and see what's happening with the world at large with Paramount, and then the greater media, what's going on with the tea leaves there with the industry. I think I saw a stat the other day that said only 1 in 8 scripted productions are filmed in LA now. I'm going to double check that. But that's fodder for the future. But as far as Trek World right now, that's what we got. So these are going to be stringing out. And it does make sense for them to why cram into the holiday window when it's not specifically, it's not like the Doctor Who Christmas special. It's not even like the Death in Paradise Christmas special. No. So it's January. Yay. Be more eyeballs on it, more attention. We'll have a fresh new year. But so the news came out, bits and pieces there. So you got a date for Section 31. You've got more of the characters and the characters revealed. I mean, you all have been reading this. So over on Strange New Worlds, they announced this New Zealand actor, Rhys Darby, is going to play a character we will know. Familiar yet completely new to Star Trek. Oh, please don't tell me he's playing a McCoy yet. But lots of speculation on that. There's that. Tatiana is going to be part of Academy. That's interesting. Tatiana Maslany, sorry. Who you'll know from She-Hulk, right? Part of Academy. That's cool. So there's that bits and pieces. So we're looking at Strange News debut. Yay, fresh Trek this week. I hope you're excited. It's Lower Decks. It is bittersweet, but everybody is so excited for this. And Mike, I couldn't believe that was the first. I could. It always struck me over the years how it felt like the Lower Decks main 4 were never together. Either Jack was off shooting something, or Eugene was off doing something, and they couldn't get, or Noelle was somewhere else. Tawny's been almost everywhere, everything. It's like she's had anyway, of the 4 Lower Decker regulars, as Mike McMahon pointed out, that stage at New York Comic Con was the first time they'd all been together in the entire damn run of the show, which is kind of amazing. I don't think that had anything to do with renewing for a 6th season, but there you go. They talk about it, though, constantly out in public, being unrestrained to say this can't be the last of these characters. The speculation is on whether that's more live action, whether that is animated movies, whether they spin off and do something funky. I don't know. Whether Shax gets his own series and they show up as guest stars. Who knows? I hope it, but they all talk confident like this isn't the last we've seen of them. So more of that. That's cool. So those are all the nominal headlines. Again, you've seen them all everywhere else. But what I wanted to get back to, getting back to Section 31, because this might be the most enigmatic of all. Now, it's been interesting that over the years of all the things, all the potential Star Trek series formats ideas, and I mean since the 80s, Academy goes back to Harv Bennett's would-be Star Trek 6 format idea, right? Because he thought it was his due, and then when he didn't, that's why he walked from the production back in the, well, it wasn't movie-only days, because Next Gen was humming along by season 2, season 3. No, for a long time, both of these new ideas, not Pike and Strange New, but a Section 31 and an Academy were kind of like, different ways. Academy was kind of like, oh, please, no, God, no, not, as we used to say, 90210 in space. But I have hopes that it's going to be a different, they talk about it being a different vibe, a different mode for Star Trek storytelling. Certainly the sets are going to be interestingly different, you know, not corridor rooms on a starship, much less a space station. It's going to be, I'm really intrigued, and they've got a power lineup here with Holly Hunter, right, and Giamatti, and all this cast up and down. I think maybe Star Trek World is drop the old, oh, please, not teenage angst. And maybe people are curious enough to see what they're going to do with this cast and this setting and all of that. And maybe if they'd been 50-50, it's more like 80-20 on the angst scale, that more people are worried, upset about Section 31 for all the old reasons. Oh, Section 31 should never have been invented. We love Ira and everybody on DS9, but it never should have been invented. It's the dark side. Gene Roddenberry would never have had a dark side to Star Trek. It's utopia, damn it. And we know all the downsides of all of our alien adversary, you know, non-human based folks. So it's felt like the problematical one. Now, that's offset by the fact that everybody apparently loves Michelle Yeoh, right? And this is what they've chosen to do to keep the Michelle Yeoh, to keep Georgiou going, Emperor Georgiou even. And through the arc they put her through on Discovery to set this up and get this going. And since then, we've had this intriguing thought that it's a young captain. So it's 10-ish years before the Enterprise C. And so it's like the 2230s is where we are, maybe something like that. But other than that, folks are really trepidatious. Now, one thing that I've said all along, no matter what you think about the show itself, right, is the format. Because Michelle Yeoh's career has exploded. They've scaled it back from another series to this TV movie. And I don't say that damning. I mean, a big screen, big TV, peak TV, small screen movie. And if it's big enough, it might, maybe it'll play out on big screen. Maybe they'll try to throw it into theaters. What I've said all along, after they made the big distinction pivot and saying, oh, no, it's not a series now, it's a movie. You go back and watch the last year or so of Tuesdays Live or any other mention. And I always, when we talk about the Section 31 movie, Backdoor Pilot, I am still not convinced with all the hoopla, with the money they're spending, and it's not outlandish, but they're not just repainting old Discovery sets. With the money they're putting into this, I'm just thinking that the whole pivot to a movie is to cover the fact that Michelle Yeoh can't. She might even like to, but she can't commit to a series because she needs to keep herself. She's already scheduled for a couple of years, much less whether she wants to or not, to do the movie projects that her career has finally brought to her, and good on that. She can't commit to a series. Maybe she guest stars at most. But if this turns into a movie series, if this is not a one and done, then there's all kinds. You could have a series with her guest starring occasionally, but the cast, if this cast is strong enough, can take it to a series. Or maybe it becomes a series of some more movies, and they actually fit ways to fit her into it in between her other projects on downtime. Or they go beyond and never get back to her. She's mentioned, and they blithely go on without her. But it's as a movie series once a year, and not 8 or 10 hours of series. Or maybe she pops up after 2 or 3 movies. She's free to come back, but it's not a given even in a limited form. So there's all those options. But this talk about it's a movie, not a series, I don't think so. And now so Nick Bythrow, who was after the Comic-Con hoopla in New York, interviewing Tunde Olatunde Asensami, who was the producing director on Discovery all 5 years, and has still not got to encounter fandom big time. I guess they're starting to now. Anyway, he directed, didn't write, and he's talking, and if you read between the lines, he sounds like he may be doing exactly what I thought. There's some of the quotes, and again, this is Nick Bythrow on Screen Rant, which is legitimate journalism. This is not, even though the name is Screen Rant, it's not a toxic tuber at all. So Craig Sweeney, who was the screenwriter, started off the first season of Disco and had a hand in creating the original Georgiou dynamic. He says, they're paraphrasing, plenty of directions the series could go after the film, meaning it likely won't be the last. This is a quote. The wonderful thing about what Craig Sweeney did with their growth, and the wonderful thing about what Alex Kurtzman does with this iteration of Star Trek, is that he's shepherded through each series and now this movie, so unbelievably layered with care. Okay, la, 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 la. So if the audience loves it as much as we love it, and I'm really excited for them to see it, there is a wonderful potential to go on. Yeah, there's a million stories that could be birthed from Section 31. So, hope you love it. It's what I've been saying all along. But unlike the history of Star Trek, where a pilot was just a 2-hour premiere, the real need of a pilot and budgets and the sped up clock these days have negated this. In the OG days, from the 50s on until maybe 5-10 years ago, you made a pilot. It was a sample. You made the pilot to sell the series. The thought was that you had to introduce it to the people maybe buying your show just as much as you would introduce it to an audience. And, famously over the years, we have the tweaks from a pilot in. There's sometimes shows and All in the Family had 3 different pilots. They'd be recast. They'd be, there's famously all kinds of hit shows later that had recasting. It was looked at as a lab. It was an experiment, right? The definition of a pilot is so many things. A true pilot can be a work in progress. Sometimes, though, they're one and done. Sometimes you get one shot, depends on who you are, what your deal is, who they like, who's the, if you've got a star and or a producer and that's getting you in, then they take it. If it's a sitcom and it's worth messing around with, they tweak it, right? If it's a high dollar enterprise, no pun intended, you give it your best shot, and then they say, oh, this is not going to work. Or they may say, network buyers, it's just so close. Maybe it's amazing you spent all this money. Maybe if you just recast your captain and got rid of the woman character, because no one's going to believe that. Plus, Jean, we know she's your mistress. Right? Oh, and by the way, get rid of the guy with the pointed ears. No, I mean, pilots get tweaked. Now, it's only been the modern age where, say, Paramount was syndicating and financing Next Generation. Farpoint did not sell the series. The series was sold into those local stations. So Farpoint was never needed to sell the show to go on. It was purely needed as an introduction, as a premiere. So sometimes the first episodes of these series have been premieres that's only for the audience and to kickstart the show. Well, I mean, for the actors and crew to get hepped up, but it's for the audience. And sometimes it's a true pilot that's got to go earn its keep. It's got to go get itself sold before anybody even thinks of more. And TNG, DS9, now Voyager was on a network again, and ostensibly, but they made the first 24. It had an order, right? That's what, oh, it's a pilot and 12, an order for 12 and 12 on the back end, maybe. No, it's a full order. It's a full 2-year order. That's the old jargon of the day. Enterprise was the same way. They had a pilot made, a premiere with the first season. That's not the way of things. We're spending a ton more money on peak TV in the streaming era. And the pilots are made, and usually they'll go ahead and do the first 10 episodes even so. I mean, the syndicated shows were budgeted for 7 years. They figured the per episode budget, pattern budget, thinking they were going to go 7 years. And at the very least 3 or so, but they fully intended to go 7. Now that altered with Voyager and Enterprise by the time you got to a quasi-network model that was never truly a network model all the way, because they still planned to syndicate it on the side, even in markets they didn't have a network affiliate for mighty UPN. I'm just saying here that even in contrast to the streaming era, the Kurtzman era here, even in contrast to that, Section 31 is now a movie and not even a 10-episode first season, and then we'll tell you if you get 10 more, right? They don't even get 10 hours. They just have the 2-hour movie. And what I have said all along is people love Michelle Yeoh, but doing Section 31 is a little bit of a leap with fans, vocal fans, let them know. But they're trying another taste of the buffet here, the Star Trek buffet that has not been done before. And I didn't get it. I knew it was a matter of knowing they were going to, just not knowing exactly how. It's a new flavor, but exactly what kind of a flavor? Is it sweet? Is it sweet and sour? Is it hot, spicy? What's going down here? And all the doom and gloom about being a horrible, horribly dark and negative Section 31, I think that was never going to be the case. That was not going to be sustaining. I thought, and what's come to pass is the Guardians of the Galaxy tone. What I was saying was Mission Impossible, but not original 60s Mission Impossible, the caper movies, the lighthearted, we get in and get out, and nobody knows we've been here, but we save the world again with the galaxy. Yeah, go back to the 60s again, a Wild Wild West kind of thing. Nobody knows you're there. Alias Smith and John. No, the caper with the tone of, grim humor, black humor, whatever you want to say, the sarcasm, the pithy line. And then we saw the teaser, we saw the trailer at Comic-Con San Diego, and you got that, but it looked like it was stretching the budget so much, doing it glorified TV. There was a lot of action, but they promised romance. They promised, soft sides. They promised some actual stand still and talk moments. Basically what Alex called it was the messy Star Trek. Now, I'm saying all this because this looks to be, since the original series, the first true pilot made without a net. The first true Star Trek pilot made to sell. Now, I don't think Paramount Plus is a hard sell. I think this is the first time they really, truly are going to say, here's the focus group, and it's us. I think this is the first one that they're putting it out there to see how it does before they commit to doing any more. I'm sure there's ideas swimming around. I'm sure all the character bios and backgrounds have, backstories to play out. They've got siblings and parents and old girlfriends and what have you, old bosses, people they've spurned, who want to come back. I mean, there's all these messy people, with one exception. I think this is the first time the future of a Star Trek title, whether it's series or it's a movie series, it's really going to depend on the reaction. Now, it's not quite so easy to quantify because it's not old school with commercials and we look at the ratings and all that. This is going to be streaming. So, Paramount Plus will know what it got. They'll know what the eyeball track record is. But look, people are talking about how Starfleet Academy has already been renewed for a second season based on that model. And unless it was a complete train wreck, if Strange New is starting its third season, you expect they'll at least get a year or two out of it. There's nothing else in the pipeline right now, long term, aside from Academy, since 31 is not a series. Or is it? So yeah, Academy's renewed for 2. People are saying, how can you renew it for 2 seasons when we hadn't even seen the first? Well, the network brass has seen what's happening. So they're happy with it. So on one hand, that should give you hope for Academy to be excited about it. Of course, the cynics will go, oh, I can't tell that. They're just gonna renew it just to save face when it fails, which makes no sense at all. So I'm plugging for Academy. What that means is no one has given a rosy future picture here on Section 31, much less whether it would be maybe a movie series if it goes on, or maybe they adapt it into a series, and this movie truly is a backdoor pilot. But again, read between the lines. People are excited to move on, but it's not a blank check. It is not a green light right now. I think they're going to put it out. I think they're going to run it up the flagpole and see who salutes. And I think that's truly going to, if not determine the entire course, that's going to play a huge part. And the odd thing is it'll be out in the court of public opinion, not 3 or 4 network guys sitting in a screening room watching Shatner take over the center seat from Chris Hunter. So it could be historic that way. Now, whether we hear about all this along the way, whether I'm right, whether that's what plays out or some version of that, I'm just guessing. I'm killing time here like everybody else is. But just watching this and watching the way, number one, the way this was not a one and done. They're already talking about the future. So the investments made make sense, right? The space taken up on the stages in Toronto. Here's Tunde kind of saying that about its future. The only question is, in what format, in what way? If it comes back, and then in what format? And the first big if is, how does the world react to it? And I think there's curiosity about the whole Section 31 idea, concept. Will too many Star Trek people just, no. And then, is the tone going to be disarmingly winning? Not unlike, in another flavor, the way people were terrified of a comedy and a cartoon, and now the whole world loves, most of the world, I think, most of the Star Trek fandom in the world loves Lower Decks. And I think most of Star Trek fandom loves Prodigy, which that's a sidebar. Are we ever going to have more anime? Will the Lower Decks next phase 2 of Lower Decks, will that count as animation if they keep it animated? Some regurgitation of the format and some of the characters plunked down. Now you've got Tawny's co-created sitcom floating around out there, which is so weirdly, loudly, officially hinted at in the flesh at Comic-Con, and then nothing since. So except that Tawny involved in season 1 of Academy, haven't heard if she's in season 2. But her Mariner gig is going away, or is it? We got to see about that too. Anyway, I'm just saying, we may all be the doubting Thomases, and I totally get it, may be pleasantly surprised. But I think there's 2 factors to this: is how is Section 31 handled, and what is the tone? Can they pull off that tone as a Star Trek? Not that the tone has totally been defined yet. The trailer goes a long way toward helping, but then again, we've been so misled by trailers before. I don't mean to be a Beastie Boy about it, good Lord. But we'll see. We'll see. But one thing's for certain, Michelle Yeoh is still totally enraptured with this project and her ability to play, and it almost feels like they're having to kick her out, or her other movies are having to lure her away. She'll always be, I think she has a soft spot in her heart for this putting her back on the map, as wacky as that's, not that she needed to be, but I think everything that's happened during the last few years, Crazy Rich Asians and then Everywhere All at Once, has been a great synergy. And whether it was directly related to people saying, oh, well, I saw you on Discovery, I knew you in Crouching Dragon, Hidden Tiger, but or is it Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? I never can remember. But she equates Discovery, and of course the person obviously must have been a personally good experience, wasn't a nightmare as far as a work job, and the whole package is something she wants to be associated with as much as she can. So there's that going for it. So okay, the clock is ticking. We have January 25th to see if this works, if people who are trepidatious their fears are confirmed, or they pull a Lower Decks and go, oh, I never would have thought this would work, and now I'm in love with it. Or do we have a 50-50 split? Does it turn out to be more and more of a Discovery? Does it go generational? Does it go, I don't know, whatever. Is the new flavor on the Star Trek buffet of messy Star Trek, is that going to work? We'll see. But for now, I'm saying I called it that this was backdoor pilot in some form or another. And as long as the world halfway agrees, it sounds like that's what they're trying to plan for. That cast is excited enough not to be a one and done. What do you think? Okay, I can't wait to jump into the chat. But first, I just got to thank some folks. Big time. Got to thank all of our Patreon. Yep, our Patreon folks. So thank you, Chuck A. And I haven't made the new one for the month yet, gang. So hang on with me, okay? But thank you, Chuck A, James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Jesse at Crusher Convo Podcast, Lawrence Todd, Halbeard Gunnjonson, Galinda Bruton, Andrew Dzimski, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, Chris Jiggin, Keith Rombach, and Comedy Forecast. And our live wires, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Alan Hoenzi, James, Dave Gregory, Greg Wickstrom, and Kay Zushafsky. Thank you so much. If you want to jump in and help on this very simple little Patreon, you can do more than this. But $5 and $10 is all I say. It's a shout out every week. The $10 folks get access to older. Yeah, I know I haven't done this yet, gang. But I need to get you caught up on your entitled early first few years of the behind the scenes monthly guest recordings, videos, personal photos from our Portal 47 guest telebriefing nights. It's patreon.com/TreklandLive. Love for you to take a look at that if you would. Otherwise, hey, it's a Tuesday. That means there's a new Trek Files up. This week, it's a second visit with director Paul Lynch, who had the unusual place of directing the first regular production episode after the pilot on TNG, and also DS9. Last week, we had him for talking about The Naked Now, TNG. This week, it's A Man Alone on DS9. And yes, I know it was the third you saw, but it was the second episode shot, okay? It was switched with past prologue. Boom. Anyway, the Trek Files, wherever fine podcasts are caught. I need to update this because now you can go to thetrekfiles.com. It gets you into our page on Memory Alpha. The new episode is there. You have to scroll down. I know it's clunky, but the new episode, it's worth it because you've got the documents and the player and the hot links into Memory Alpha all in one site. Plus, the whole site, all of our 12 seasons are now easily scrollable and they're linked. The docs, the audio, it's all there. It's great. Now it's a usable resource to reference. It's actually doable without scrolling up and down a Facebook page. But we'd love you to join the Facebook group anyway. Other than that, guys, on the socials, I am still on X. I know. I'm hanging in there. On Twitter, nobody calls it X except for this time once a week when I say that. Hey, Larry Nemecek's Trekland is the Facebook, is the Instagram, and most of all, if you haven't done it yet, on YouTube, like and subscribe if you would, please. And portal47.net. Oh my gosh, you guys, I had the big hunky-dory sale during the open house if you missed it, but hang on, go check it out at the page. You can jump in anytime. Just wish if you were interested, you caught the sale. Okay. And once again, you ready for your customized away mission in Greater SoCal that you, with my help, put together, and then you, with my guidance, get guided on the day of our journey. Yeah, I'm your chauffeur. I'm your concierge. I am your props and cosplay wrangler, whatever you want to do. Just did one a couple of weeks ago. First time through this long, hot summer and crazy year with Jorg and Wolfgang. And we saw some traditional places and some untraditional places too. You can do the same. So for now, please, if you're leaving us here on YouTube, stay healthy, do all the things. Stay woke, check the sources. It's the thickiest, fakiest season out there, right? Don't fall into a deep fake. And trek well, everybody. We'll see you next week. And we'll see you on Second Opinion this weekend.